Hyperemesis gravidarum is a life-altering condition. In addition to the debilitating physical symptoms, it can also evoke several heavy and unwanted emotions and feelings. These feelings can be overwhelming and scary. No one understands the darkness caused by HG better than pregnancy sickness support. We are raising funds to be able to enhance our mental health support services with our Kind2Mind campaign. Together we can help HG sufferers start their lives again after the devastation caused by HG. In this new HG and mental health series, Fundraiser Faye talks to HG sufferers and members of our counselling team to uncover the devastating impact that HG can have on a sufferer's mental health. Today I am joined by PSS volunteer Kathryn. Kathryn, thanks for joining me today. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Good. Let's get started. How many times have you had HG?
Just the once, which I think was enough for me.
And what were your physical symptoms?
I think I potentially had the full range. So I became nauseous kind of very early on. I think from about week 5, 6, I started to be sick. And initially thought that was just normal morning sickness. I think by maybe week 7, I was being sick about 20 times a day. So spoke to a GP and they prescribed me some anti-sickness tablets. And by week 8, I was admitted to hospital for the first time. And for me, that continued kind of weekly initially. And then maybe by week kind of 10 up until week 20, I had a really good consultant and she agreed to kind of proactively admit me. So I was going in every other day for fluids because that's the only thing that kind of gave me respite. So yeah, I think I found the nausea incredibly difficult. I don't think in the whole pregnancy I had more than maybe a couple of hours where I didn't feel nauseous. The vomiting, I think I eventually went on Danzitron when I think I was in my 2nd trimester. I wasn't allowed it up until then. And that, I know some people had said it was going to be like a wonder drug. And it did help with the amount of times I was sick, but it didn't really do anything for the nausea. So yeah, that carried on throughout. I think I was told, it will, people always used to say, oh, it'll improve at kind of 12, 14, 16. No one ever picked an odd number.
They don't, do they? No, that's true.
It did change, but I think I was unlucky in that I didn't kind of see that lift. So I was kind of hospitalized a lot for that early chunk. I was off work for several months, and then even when I went back, I couldn't kind of do my typical role. I was working from home and using a lot of annual leave to kind of survive and get through, basically. I think other symptoms I had that were bizarre and are kind of really difficult to explain to people were just the sensitivity to smells. So nobody could cook food in the house. I think my husband on one occasion accidentally cooked some fish that was past its sell-by date, which was, he's still not been forgiven for that. The noises used to make me sick, like, so the Just Eat advert at the time, anytime if I heard that on the TV downstairs, that would make me sick. The sound of the oven door, the bread bin, and being, I guess, very sensitive to kind of motion. So I struggled to kind of use a phone or watch TV. Just moving around, I found really difficult. Kind of smell of shampoos, those kind of things. Yeah,
it's really lonely when you've got all those things going on, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think the best one that people laugh at, but actually was probably most difficult, was the smell of my husband. Actually made me sick for several months. So he just had to stay away from, like, we couldn't be in the same room for quite a few months. Which sad, you know, when I say that now, people kind of like, that's hilarious. But I think at the time, in a kind of COVID lockdown, when you can't see anybody, that was quite lonely.
It sounds really lonely. What was the other effect on your mental health when you were suffering from HG?
So I think initially I was, in those early weeks, probably up until 20 weeks, I was so physically poorly. Like, I almost don't have, I do have memories, but like I just was surviving. I was kind of bedbound. I couldn't kind of watch TV. I couldn't really do anything. So I literally just kind of got through the day to the night time. Because for me, I wasn't sick in the night, whereas I know some people are. So actually I managed to sleep, which was a blessing. So I think I kind of got through those early days, and it was almost when the physical, the extremeness of the kind of sickness lifted a little bit. I think that's when it kind of hit me more mentally, just that I wasn't even halfway through potentially. And I think I'd been off work for a long time, and I felt a lot of guilt around that, and just kind of that loss of sense of purpose. And I couldn't see any of my friends, partly because of the lockdown, but I would struggle to call people because it made me feel so poorly. So just that kind of sense of isolation, kind of not feeling very useful. I think also wanting to be able to get ready for having a baby, and that I was really struggling with the idea of, I'm going to get to this end of this pregnancy and I need to be kind of physically fit. And I've never felt worse. And I was like, I'd lost about 2.5 stone, 3 stone by that point, and I kind of was just very weak. So I was struggling with that idea, and people kept saying to me, like, you know, the baby will get everything it needs, the baby will be healthy, and you'll be fine afterwards. But I just couldn't quite get my head around how a child could be really healthy when I'd kind of licked disco crisps, and not been able to drink water, you know. And I think then I was already a high risk pregnancy kind of going into it. So I think the double whammy, and then we had a difficult scan. So there was a little bit more going on. But I think people kept saying to me, if you're not eating or drinking like this, it's going to start to affect you mentally. But I don't know if I believed it to an extent, but I think I thought that it was almost like an added, oh, I'm not dealing with this as well as I could be. And I think just that, you know, that pressure just made me feel quite low at times. And there was just nothing in my control. So anything that I would have normally done to kind of make me feel better, like doing exercise or like going to jewelry classes, seeing friends, I couldn't do any of that. You know, people say like light a candle or use nice hand cream, and there was literally nothing that didn't make me sick. I think when I look at it now, I almost think, well, of course you were in that place. And the field I work in, somebody was talking about kind of in eating disorders, it's so common for people to have low mood and become very anxious because their body is kind of deprived of nutrients. And I guess it almost makes sense, like, but nobody had ever said to me, it's almost like, maybe expect this. And I think one of the medications I was given as an anti-sickness, I wasn't advised, but that can have kind of mental health side effect. You know, it can make you quite irritable, and they advise only taking it for a few days. And I really noticed that. But for me, that was actually quite a good sickness tablet. So it was the weighing the two up.
Yeah, and that's a big trade-off, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think when I first started, you're kind of thinking, well, you know, if anything, to not be sick. But then when you're in that place, when you're feeling really anxious, you're kind of like, oh, maybe the sickness, maybe I'll take the sickness. But there just wasn't an easy balance.
But there's so much weighing on your mind, isn't there, Kathryn? Like, I just remember thinking, there is no way my baby can be okay. Like, and it would just play, that thought was playing on loop in my brain for months on end. How can my baby be okay? I can't even drink water.
Yeah.
And of course that's going to have, of course that worry and that anxiety is going to just have a major effect on your mental health, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think I had a huge amount of worry about, because I'd not been able to take the supplements, you know, because I just couldn't keep them down. So I was feeling like, I've not managed that, and I can't eat, you know, and you just, everything you read is about, eating a really healthy, balanced diet. And they were kind of saying, you can't keep losing weight, you need to maintain it. And people would suggest like foods to me, and just that say of kind of doing it for your baby. And it was all, well, there was a lot of well-meaning stuff, like everyone knows about the ginger comments. But I think when you're really, really struggling and you can't even sip water, which to me now, I just don't get it. I'm like, why can you not just sip water? But it was just physically impossible. Yeah, and so I think probably on some level, the whole pregnancy, I wasn't sure if we were going to have a baby at the end of it. I don't know if I was necessarily sort of consciously thinking about that, but I think that was a big part. And I probably felt quite detached actually during pregnancy, because I didn't feel pregnant. I just felt incredibly unwell. And a lot of the experiences that people have in pregnancy, you don't get to join in with. There was nothing, there were no nice bits. There was a scan in the very early days when we did a private scan, a 3D scan, and that was lovely. And I think probably later down the line, they showed me his face, which was a really important moment. That was on kind of like I was having more scans because I was ill. But yeah, I think you just lose the kind of joy of it. And I know pregnancy is actually, for a lot of people, it isn't rosy and lovely, but that's not necessarily the message you kind of pick up in the, social media world.
Well, I think TV and movies, they tell us, don't they, oh, there'll be a bit of sickness. And I remember the first time I was sick, I think it was like 5-6 weeks. I was like, oh, how cute. I've got a bit of morning sickness. And then it just never stopped. But you just don't expect it, do you?
No.
And it just comes as such a shock in your life. It's just turned upside down within days.
Yeah.
So, Kathryn, have you got any advice for anybody who might be at home now and they're really struggling to think, I don't know if I can make it another day?
I mean, the first thing I would say is that thought of, I don't know if I can actually go through this, is really normal. And I think a lot of people have thoughts of, I don't know if I want to carry on with this pregnancy. And I think that in itself that's just like an added kind of trauma within it, because, often much wanted babies, then you just don't know how you can kind of get through. So I would just say, be kind to yourself, take it one day at a time. And I know some of this, it just doesn't seem enough to help people kind of through that darkness. And I know people kept saying to me, it'll all be worth it when the baby's in your hands. But I just couldn't sort of focus on that point, because I just didn't know how I was going to look after a baby when I felt so ill. And another, I was really worried about giving birth, because I couldn't really kind of get up the step. At the point I was worrying, I was kind of not. It was maybe like my second trimester towards the third, and that was when I was physically at my worst. I was probably improved a bit by the time I did give birth. But they said, you know, I remember my midwife saying, oh, you've had such a bad pregnancy, you'll be fine at the birth, which wasn't reassuring, but she was right. And I know that's not for everyone. And in comparison, I would like deliver a child every month instead of being pregnant. And as soon as I saw him, I knew he was okay from different perspectives, because we were, you know, we had some worries about other things. And I was fine. And I'd worried that I would be like depressed afterwards because I'd struggled so much. And those, you know, those first few days I was rebuilding my energy, but I was just, I think the extreme difference between being pregnant and having a newborn was so vast. Like, my world didn't get smaller, it just grew, because I could go out a bit again. I could eat food, and I remember sending a picture of my food to my peer support worker, because I thought she might be the only person to get how excited I was that I was eating a cherry tomato. And I just kind of, I guess it sounds really cheesy, but sort of fell in love with just the simple things in life again, like being able to just not be sick. And I remember kind of delivering the placenta, and I was just like, I don't feel sick. It was, for me, it was just instantaneous. And I had like 3 cups of tea, 3 pieces of toast. And yeah, so there is, you know, I know it's not as straightforward for everybody, but you will get there. And I think you will see it, you know, you will see it as a dark time, but I don't know, I feel like I learned a lot from it. I feel like I feel quite resilient for going through it, because it was something I had to do on my own. Nobody could get me through it, essentially. And I've kind of taken quite a lot of strength from that.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you, Kathryn. Thanks for talking to me about your HG experience. It was lovely to chat to you.
Thank you.
If you or someone you love is suffering from HG, please visit www.pregnancysicknesssupport.org.uk.